Welcome to Vogel Voices, a podcast put on by Vogel, which is a nonprofit here in Dallas, Texas. The purpose of the podcast is really to explain the impact that Vogel has on homeless children and their families here in Dallas. Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Vogel Voices podcast. The purpose of our podcast is to help people understand the mission of Vogel Alcove and the work we do every day to impact homeless children and their families in the Dallas community. Our mission is to help young children and their families prevent and overcome the traumatic effects of poverty and homelessness. So we do that through our early childhood programs, mental health programs, and our family support programs for the families. I am Karen Hughes. I'm the president and CEO of Vogel. Today, our topic is around fundraising. And one of the things that I love about my role as the president and CEO is to go out and tell the Vogel story and to have people understand the importance of the work we do. And also because they are so generous that they want to get involved and get engaged with what we do. So I love doing what we do. And today I couldn't do what I do without my right-hand person in this arena. And that's Greg Brinkley. He is my Chief Development Officer. And Greg and I work hand in hand as we raise the funds that are needed for Vogel's program. So welcome, Greg, to the podcast.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here.
So Greg, I've been the CEO for 14 years. You've been here 10. So talk to us a little bit about your journey to get here, because it's not quite the normal journey. We have to tell you that, Greg is an Aggie, so it kind of came through the agriculture world, and that is not the typical route that a development person would take.
That is correct.
But so talk to us a little bit about your journey, your professional journey that got you to Vogel, and then tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to get to Vogel, and also why you've stayed, because you've been here 10 years, which is awesome for me, but it's also very unique in the world of development to have a development staff stay, or senior level person stay 10 years in the same role. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, and Karen, I think the last statistic that I read was the average fundraising professional stays in their role for 18 months. And so I'll talk a little bit about why Vogel is so important to me and why this mission resonates with me so much. But as you mentioned, I graduated from Texas A&M with a degree in agriculture. Mm-hmm. And I learned very quickly that the agricultural world was not going to be the place that I ended up making my career. And I found myself in the sales world. And quite honestly, I think I had about 8 or 9 years of outside sales, business development sales. And my career path that I thought that I was taking a journey on was going to be a regional and then a national sales manager. And I guess it was a phone call from a very close friend of mine named Sammy Gonzalez that reached out to me and said, Greg, I know you work in the sales world, and I know that you're not looking to change careers, but I'm curious if I could ask you to help promote a position that is open at an organization that I just started working for. And I said, well, Sammy, what's this organization? And he said, Vogel Alcove. And I said, I've never heard of Vogel Alcove. What is Vogel Alcove? And he told me, Greg, it's an organization that works with homeless children and their families. And I stopped him. I said, is this an orphanage? He said, no, Greg, these are families that are overcoming poverty and homelessness. And he explained the mission to me. And at that point, it just stopped me dead in my tracks. And I said, well, what is this position that you're looking to fill? And he said, well, my CEO has identified that we have a need for a director of corporate relationships that can go out and build relationships with corporations and help them in our fundraising goals. And I said, well, that sounds very similar to what I do with sales. I would like to meet the CEO and learn a little bit more about the role and the position. And to make a very long story short, I actually reached out and had an interview with you. And I remember telling you, Karen, I don't have half the qualifications that a fundraising professional has to be able to do this role according to what the paper says. But I said, I can tell you this, I can build relationships, I can bring people together, and I know how to close deals. And if you give me a chance, I will promise you that I will work as hard as I ever have to make this mission a success. And you took a big risk on me. And again, that's going back, I think it's closer to 11 years now. And I've been there ever since. And my role has grown from just working with corporations to really the entire aspect of our fundraising department. And as the Chief Development Officer, I get to work with individuals, corporations, and anybody that's interested in helping us support our mission.
Well, great. Well, we're very happy to have you, and especially during this time, because these are very, very exciting times at Vogel.
They are.
As I mentioned, Vogel's been around for 38 plus years, but we've always been in one facility. And in that facility, we do a lot. At our downtown location, we serve over 130, actually we serve probably 200 kids a year. But then more than that, even with our summer camp program. And so the children that come there have to be homeless, but then we also help them get housing and employment for their parents. And they stay, many of them, until they go to kindergarten. Some don't. So the average child stays there about 18, 20 months. But the exciting thing is that throughout the community, people have always told us, as we've done strategic planning and things, is you just need more Vogels in the community. And so a couple of years ago, the board set a priority for us to expand our mission through partnerships with other organizations. And so that's exactly what we've done. So now we have 3 facilities, and we will have 4 eventually. So in December, we opened up the North location, which is a partnership with Family Gateway, an emergency shelter in Dallas. And so we actually are embedded in that family shelter, which is very unique from what we do at the main campus. And so we have an infant, toddler, preschool class there. We also do a after-school program there, and a teen program, and then a summer play day, a Saturday play day kind of thing for the families, because they're actually living in that emergency shelter where we are. So we also have even started a home-based program there. So we have about 50 spaces in that space, so we have expanded our footprint. But those children don't stay for more than 90 days, and so they turn over a lot. So we'll probably serve at least 100 more children in that location throughout the year. So we've just been at it 6 months. But then we're also very excited that our other 3rd site will be opening this fall. And it's at Redbird, and the shop's at Redbird, and all the transformation that's gone on down there in South Dallas. And so the thing that's exciting to me about that is, with all the transformation and really turning that Redbird into more of a medical, business, economic kind of place, the missing link was childcare. There was nobody doing childcare for those people. So we got a partnership with Peter Brodsky and the group that's doing the investment, and they gave us some space if we would build it out. So you and I, over the last year, have been raising that capital money, and we've done that, and actually it's finished and it's beautiful.
That's right.
And we are very excited about that, and hopefully we'll start in the fall. But that will also be a unique space. There'll be 4 infant rooms, 4 toddler rooms, 4 preschool rooms. But it will be different in that the priority will be first of all, for families at the main campus that we have seen that have already got jobs and employment, or got employment and housing, many of them in the South Dallas area, that they'll be able to transfer out there to that facility, which will open up more spaces for really the true homeless families that need our spaces right now. And then it will also provide childcare, quality childcare.
That's the key.
That's the thing about the South Dallas. There were childcare, but it's a desert when it comes to quality childcare. And so we'll be able to provide quality childcare services for the people that actually work in Redbird, in the Redbird area. And so it'll be a different clientele or clients out there, that they will be actually working families, but they're actually still working on moving themselves to thriving as a family. And so it really kind of sets up what our expansion's been all about, is moving people from crisis, virtually homeless, to stability, which we do at our main campus, and now thriving to our other campus. And then in a couple of years, we've partnered with Salvation Army, and their new site will be opening in around 2027, and Vogel will provide the child care for that. So all of that to say, and this has happened just over the last 2 years, or really a year and a half. So a lot of growth, but that means our budget will probably move our employees from about 80 to probably 130 plus. And also that means that the exciting thing is that from 200 to 500 children will be able to serve more children.
Plus their families. Which is huge for the Dallas community. And but that also moves the budget. So we right now have an $8.5 million budget, which includes 2 of the sites, but with 4 or more, we'll probably go to at least 11 to 11.5.
So that impacts your job because you help us raise that money.
That's
so so that's why we're here today, to talk about our new campaign. And the new campaign that we're launching is, the theme of it is going to be this year, Hope Begins at Vogel. And that is so true with everything that we do, that how hope really begins when those children and those families walk in our door. And it's, I love the theme because, first of all the things, given what's happening in our world all around us, hope is a word that we need, everybody needs.
Correct.
And especially that is what Vogel does for people. So talk to me a little bit about the campaign, why you think the theme is important, and just how we're going to go about implementing this campaign this year.
You know, when you hear the word hope, I hope people realize that hope is not just a powerful feeling. It is so key to our mental and our physical health. And in fact, if you want to find the driver for meaningful change in life, hope is the foundation. And that's what we provide the children and families at Vogel. And you mentioned it, when you can see it when the kids walk in the door. You can see it when the parents come in to meet with their caseworker, whether it's getting health checkups, whether it's early child education, whether it's having a community, a family, or even just a safe place. It is not an understatement to say hope begins at Vogel. And when I think about fundraising, I really think about our community. And the hope truly that our mission has, that we're going to succeed with, comes from our supporters. It comes from our donors, our volunteers, and people that are advocates for us. And without them, we cannot actually implement the comprehensive programs and services that we provide at Vogel. And so I think hope is a tremendous theme, and our supporters in our community are going to see that as we are releasing images and stories on social media, as we're reaching out to our impact and our major donors through our print and media campaigns. But really the driver, I think, that's going to be exciting is sharing the impact that hope provides. So we have so many stories of challenges overcome and successes made that if it weren't for the supporters of these communities and this North Texas community, we would not be able to do at Vogel. And so I couldn't be more excited to show our supporters how we plan to implement hope. And then it goes back to this expansion that you talked about. The number one question that I've been asked in my 10 plus years at Vogel is, when will there be more Vogel alcoves? And so we can finally say now. So you've mentioned before, we're not looking to expand. We have expanded and we're expanding. And so as you look at this impact that we're going to make as an organization on family homelessness and child poverty, you talk about hope for this community. We are just going to be rallying people to come alongside us and help us do what we do so that we can make a tremendous impact in these families' lives.
Well, and the good news is, the reason that we also can have hope as the professionals out there raising the money is Dallas is so generous.
Correct.
And so many other nonprofits we speak of and talk about across the country, they don't have what we have here in Dallas. And so we are so fortunate that Dallas is such a philanthropic community, from individuals to corporate headquarters to family foundations, major philanthropic foundations. And so Vogel is thrilled that we have that background. So one of the ways is really trying to move our individuals to more. So we have a goal of raising almost $1 million this year as part of our campaign through individuals. So can you talk a little bit about, when you talk to individuals, about how they can get involved and get engaged with the campaign?
Absolutely. Well, the easiest way to get involved in the campaign is help to make a donation. You know, in any shape or size, whether it's $10 or $10,000, we need the support of this community to help us. And so our website is designed to be able to share the impact of the work that we do. And I just have to add, I think one of the items that I'm so proud of with the success of our expansion is the fact that we have been vetted by foundations and corporations that really drill down to say, what exactly are you doing? How is this impact going to be made? And is this going to be something that's going to be a huge benefit for our community? And the answer has been overwhelmingly yes. And you can see that through the support that we've gotten as we've launched our first phase of this campaign. And so I challenge individuals to just learn more about what we're doing and how our work really does take families from crisis to stability to thriving, and come be a part of that. And so whether it's an individual gift that you make once a year, or you can look to join our flight program. And our flight program is a monthly giving program where you can select any amount of money you'd like, from $5 to $5,000 or more, and every month it just comes right out of your bank account and comes to Vogel. Both those types of donations you can make on our website. Very, very simple and easy to do. In addition, social media is obviously very prominent in our day and age, and something that Vogel Alcove has a fantastic social media presence. And there's opportunities to give through social media. You can even go to our Facebook page, and there's a donate button that you can make a simple donation there, and then you can share that with your network and your community. So lots of ways to get involved, but I encourage people to go to vogelalcove.org. That's the first step to see our campaign, see what we're doing, and see the impact of what your support can do for us.
And you mentioned in your comments about Vogel has been vetted, and we definitely been vetted. We're very proud to be a United Way partner.
Correct.
And that's not an easy process.
No.
And so
it's a badge of honor.
Yes, it is a badge of honor, and we're happy to be supported by United Way here in Dallas and be one of their partners, and have been for many, many years. But also recently we received Crystal Charity. We're chosen as one of their beneficiaries, and that is definitely a vetting process.
Absolutely.
And so, when you get that, it really is a badge of approval. And so we're very excited right now to be working with Crystal Charity and to raise money for this campaign that we're on. And so that has been awesome as well. You mentioned at the beginning that you came on board, your first job was the director of corporate relations, because Vogel really had a lot of corporate, but we needed more corporate support. So talk a little bit about corporate giving and how we go about working with corporations and how they can get involved.
I'll answer that question, but you also made me remember something that I didn't share when we started, and that is you put me through the most difficult interview that I can imagine anybody having to go through. And for people that are listening at home or listening in your car that know Karen Hughes, they know she means business. And so she really vetted me to make sure that I had the ability to work and succeed in this job. And quite honestly, I think that's why I was so successful in terms of corporate fundraising. Because when I first started, that was my sole focus. And you can ask anybody that does fundraising, it is difficult to get corporations engaged and corporations to stay engaged. And I think some of the challenges that we face, one, there are so many great nonprofits, even in this North Dallas community, that corporations can look and decide where they want to give to. There's lots of turnover. People change jobs in corporations, so they're going all over the place. They may be with a company for a few years and develop a relationship with a nonprofit, and then they move away. And then corporations change what they choose to give to, and they change how they choose to give. So how do we navigate that landscape? And I think it starts with being proactive in terms of we don't wait for corporations to come to us. We reach out to them, whether it's through setting up personal one-on-one meetings, inviting groups down for tours, engaging people in volunteer initiatives, but really it's about sitting down and talking to the corporate decision makers, building relationships, and finding out not just, hey, this is what we want you to do for us. What are the things that are important to you as a corporation? What are the things that you feel are great for your culture in terms of your community support? What are things that line up with your pillars? Do you like to be recognized? Do you like to have opportunities to have internal fundraising initiatives? There's so many ways that corporations choose to give that you need to learn from them what's important. Then you can come back to them and say, this is how we could build an engagement plan together, and we can hit your goals and you can hit our goals. And I think the biggest success that we've had in terms of our corporate fundraising is doing that, but also doing it consistently over many, many years. And so ultimately what we try to do is build impactful relationships to where when people do leave companies, the company that they end up with, they come back to us because they want to continue that relationship. And we've had that over and over and over. But again, we also want to develop such strong relationships within a company to where it's not just one person is really the Vogel ambassador, but we have ambassadors throughout the organization. And I can go on and on and on about companies that we've developed those type of relationships over even before I started. And so I just think that with the level of businesses that are here in the Metroplex, and we can talk about small companies, medium-sized companies, and large companies, they all have different interests and they all have different things that they want to be a part of. And so it's our job to learn what that is and help them engage, help them help us.
Yeah, and we've been lucky over the years, and especially with this campaign. I just got to give a shout out to Santander.
That's right.
They have been a major, they have a person on our board, actually he's our treasurer, and but they have been so generous to us. They helped give, literally in the last couple of years, over $1 million. They helped put our therapy, pay for our therapy room at our sensory room at our main location.
Yep.
And then they've given 2 major capital gifts for our Redbird, the capital and now operating. So we love those kind of relationships, and we don't take them for granted. Other giants in the community, Kimberly-Clark has been a long-standing corporate partner of Vogel, and then even Neiman Marcus. Neiman Marcus here in Dallas, everybody knows Neiman's, and but literally back to the original Stanley Marcus was on our committee for doing our arts event way back over almost 5 years ago. So we are very proud of our corporate partners and what they allow us to do here in Dallas. So, but we mentioned, I mentioned the arts event that so talk a little about, because a lot of corporations like to do sponsorships for events. Now that's changed a bit.
It's correct.
And so we're now not only giving them the opportunity for sponsorships, but many corporations now have their own foundation and they have their own pillars. And so we do programmatic grants to them versus sponsorships. But there's still a lot of corporations, whether that's law firms or major corporations, that still like to give sponsorships and help us on our events. So can you talk about, and actually kind of with one of our major big event is a little different than the kind of sponsorships that we go after for our other events. So can you talk a little bit about our sponsorships, the 2 events that we do, and how we go about sponsors for them?
Absolutely. So the first event we'll talk about is Day One DFW, which this year will be the 10th anniversary of the event, which is held on New Year's Day this year at the Irving Convention Center. In fact, we've made the Irving Convention Center our home for this event, which is a children and family fair that features games, activities, sports, live music, inflatable rides. I mean, I could go on and on and on about what this is. Imagine the State Fair of Texas just put inside the Irving Convention Center, and we literally take up all four floors of that facility. And I love to tell people, we throw the biggest party on New Year's Day in North Texas, and this is all geared towards children with young families. And so we'll have 5,000 plus people that will come out and attend the event on New Year's Day. And the sponsors that we connect and bring to this event are typically sponsors that want to have their name, their brand in front of families. And so you mentioned Kimberly-Clark. Well, they are very famous for one of their products, Huggies.
Exactly.
And so they've been a founding sponsor of the event. And many years, they come out and they'll have their signs and their presence on one of our major activities that we have at the event. And then we have a lot of companies that will come up and they want to activate on site. And so they'll have a booth where they can actually meet the attendees and they can do lead generation, or they can promote products and different things at the event. And so this has been fun for us, because while we do have companies that support the Day One DFW event because they love our mission and they want to fund everything that we're doing, we have a huge opportunity now to tap into marketing departments and branding departments. And so we've had many companies over the last 10 years that have sponsored the event that say, you know what, we love Vogel's mission, but the only reason we're able to sponsor this is because we have metrics and numbers that we have to hit in terms of lead generation and just getting people to ultimately buy our products. And so we have those people come out and activate on site. So it's been just a really, really fun opportunity for us, because it's brought in a different way for sponsors to engage.
And I think the other thing is that we found its home. And so the Irving is now the home. It's in the 10 years we've been doing this, will be a 10-year anniversary. We've kind of moved about, but I think we have found our home.
That's right.
In Irving, and that lends itself to being able to really get with the corporations that are there. And we appreciate that Celanese was our title sponsor last year, literally right down the street from the Irving Convention Center. So I think that's helped too.
Well, and I'm excited because we're right in the middle of the Metroplex now. So we pull attendees from literally all of North Texas. And so I think that's helpful for our demographics and for our sponsors to come out and know that they've got a really wide group of audience that's coming to that event. You know, it's as you look at the future of that event, as it continues to grow, I think one of the items that a lot of our corporate partners really, really get excited about is this is an event that their employees can come to. And we see it year after year where our big sponsors will come out and they'll bring their people and they'll bring their families. So it really is a great way to start New Year's Day as a community, and for our sponsors, even as a kind of a fun team building family type day at Day One DFW. We
have a really special thing this year that I think we're going to have to watch, but I think it's going to be fun, is we've usually done fireworks in the show. Because a lot of the kids, the fireworks that are around New Year's Day, they're at midnight. Most kids don't get to do them, so we always added fireworks to ours that can be at 7 o'clock at night instead of midnight. and the kids loved them. We had to stop doing them at Irving because there was nowhere to shoot them off from, because all the land
Apparently
has
they don't
been
like you
sold.
shooting fireworks in the middle of the city. Correct, yeah.
But now, this year, we're going to have a drone show. And so we're excited about it. But the thing that's really exciting about the drone show for this year is the company that we already have a contract with just got the golden buzzer on America's Got Talent. If you're a fan of those that are watching, if you're on America's Got Talent, you got to watch over the next couple of weeks, because the company is actually going to be on the live shows, and we'll be needing your vote. But you'll also get to see them at New Year's Day. So that's exciting too with that event.
Well, it's going to be special and unique. It's not something that everyone gets to see on a yearly, annual basis. In fact, I've never seen a drone show, so I'm very excited about it. And it makes me think of one story that I know you and I have talked about many, many times, but I guess it was last year at the end of the event, a little boy turned in front of us to his parents and said, "This is the best day of my life," before they left. And that's what Day One DFW is all about. It's just showing kids a fantastic
But
time.
I will do this disclaimer, because our show is going to be great, but I can't afford the one that they did on American Idol.
Well, you'll get a mini version of that. But if you want to see that one, watch it on TV, right?
Exactly. So talk a little bit about our big event and the sponsors for that event.
I've always internally called this our Super Bowl, because it really is our biggest event of the year. It's our annual arts performance event. Where this year will be our 33rd annual. And so this is an event, a lot of people will consider it a gala. We really don't call it a gala, but we bring in a headline entertainer. We have a dinner, a program where we really get to highlight the mission of Vogel, and then we just get to celebrate with our sponsors, our board of directors, and just all of our Vogel supporters. And we raise, ultimately, our goal is about $1.5 million to raise in this event, which we do primarily through sponsorships. And those are individuals and those are corporations that make that up. And in terms of entertainment, over the years, we've had the Beach Boys, we've had Earth, Wind, and Fire, Sarah McLachlan, Diana Ross. This past year, we had the Bare Naked Ladies, which it was always fun to tell some of our maybe donors that aren't as big into the music scene that the Bare Naked Ladies are actually men, and they wear clothes. But it was a fantastic event. So we're actually in the process right now of working to see who our talent is going to be for the upcoming year, which will be in April. The event is every spring. And so we'll have a big kind of announcement when it comes time to get that event kicked off. But really, this is such an important event for us because it really does make up such a large percentage of our operating budget. And not only does it support the mission of Vogel, but it really does help us as we're continuing to grow our expansion. You know, we've got to continue to grow that event in terms of the fundraising. And it's an amazing place to introduce new people to the mission. So one thing that we really have seen, something we appreciate, is our sponsors will come, and whether they have a half a table or a full table, they're able to bring their clients, they're able to bring their coworkers, they're able to bring their executive teams, and it just exposes our mission to so many more people. Each year we do a video that we release at the arts event, which this year, surprise, surprise, it'll be about Hope Begins at Vogel. But this video and the time to really be able to present our mission to this captured audience, we hear it year after year. It just motivates people and helps them, again, to understand the impact of what they're doing for us. So the Arts Performance event, it's our signature event, and it's an event that we're going to continue to work on and grow and really make it an experience that when people leave, they leave going, wow, that was incredible. I've got to come back next year. That's really our goal.
Yeah, and so we talked a lot about corporate sponsors there, but we also have opportunities for individuals to be sponsors there. But I want to go back to individual giving for just a minute before we continue on about corporations, because I want you to talk a little bit about the monthly giving program, because that's an easy way for for individuals to give. They can do it through our monthly giving program, and that helps us greatly because it's money that we know we're going to be getting. So talk a little bit about our flight program.
Yeah, so we can't talk enough about flight, and we've talked about this. If you peel back the onion, peel back the curtain, monthly giving is what really is going to help us to be able to get to some of these long-term goals. Yes, we need major gift donors, but we also need the army of people that can give $10, $20, $50, $100 a month. And that adds up. And as you grow that program from 100 to 500 to 1,000 people that are giving that amount of money each month, that makes a considerable impact on our revenue and our budget items. And it relieves our staff of so much pressure of having to continue to raise funds over and over. And it's simple. look at your family budget. And we've all heard the example of, you're probably spending $50 a month at Starbucks. What if you cut that down in half and you were spending $25 to be able to support the mission of Vogel? And again, it just comes right out of your bank account. You can go to our webpage and you can set that up from your credit card, or you can actually go on our webpage and you can set that up through an ACH deposit where it doesn't have to be tied to a credit card. It just comes from your bank every single month. And you really can set it and forget it. But we're not going to let you forget it because we're going to be reaching out and thanking you. We're going to be reaching out and sharing impact stories to you. And then throughout the year, we'll have special events that we'll invite Flight, which is the name of our monthly giving program. We call it the Flight program. We'll be inviting you to join us for special initiatives throughout the year. And again, it goes with that relationship building. We really want to make sure that our Flight donors know how important and how impactful their gifts are. Again, whether it's $5 or $500 a month, it makes a difference in the work that we do.
Yeah, and I think, again, you mentioned like even for individuals, they could give a small amount. So we really work hard to make sure that everybody can contribute to Vogel.
That's right.
Regardless of your income or how much you can give or what you can do. And so like a lot of corporations or businesses that are small businesses, they may not be able to do a major sponsorship for one of our events. But we have another program just for them, and it's called Community Heroes. You want to talk a little bit about Community Heroes?
Community Heroes is one of my more proud accomplishments at Vogel Alcove in creating this program, but you're correct. It's designed for the small and mid-sized company that also may not have a team of people that their job at the company is community engagement and philanthropy. Oftentimes it's an office manager or a CEO or a partner in the small business that also is trying to work on finding volunteer initiatives or companies and nonprofits to be able to engage with. So we sat down and said, how can we make it easy and seamless for small to mid-sized businesses to be able to be a part of a nonprofit and a charity, but how also can we make sure they know they're impactful? And so this program called Community Heroes is really based on 3 pillars that a company says, you know what, over the next 12 months, I commit to supporting the Vogel mission through fundraising, and whether that's writing a check for $1,500 or raising $1,500, that's the minimum goal marker, and we can actually show a company very, very seamlessly and very easily how to raise $1,500 like that. It's not difficult to do if we provide them the resources to do it. The second pillar is volunteerism, because it's so important that we don't just want companies to just provide for us financially. We want the company and the people engaged as well. So whether that means you come on site to one of our locations and actually do hands-on volunteerism, or there are things you can do at your office, whether it's clothing drives, diaper drives, or snack bag drives, and then have those delivered and brought down to Vogel. We have things that people can do at their home with their families. And so we want to find ways for companies to engage, and we challenge them, just do one. You could do much more than one, but just do one for the year. And then the third pillar that we have as a part of the Community Hero program is advocacy. So we mentioned earlier that we really need people to know about the mission of Vogel, that we need people to know about what we're doing, what's happening in our community, and how they can get engaged. So if you're a company that's a community hero, maybe it's just simply sharing our Facebook posts or our LinkedIn posts. Maybe it's writing up a story of your own about your experience engaged with Vogel Alcove, and you share that in a company newsletter. Maybe you record a podcast and you talk about what being involved with Vogel Alcove has meant for your company. There's literally 100 ways you can check the advocacy box. And so to kind of wrap it all up, we're asking for companies to help us raise at least $1,500. You're welcome to raise more. Do at least one volunteer initiative at Vogel or offsite. You could do many more. And third, help us by doing at least one initiative to raise advocacy and awareness for our mission. And again, you can do many more. But to put a bow on it, what I love about how we approach this program is we're not just going to tell you this and then just walk away. We're going to sit down with you and we're going to help you design how to do that. So we can look at different things throughout the year that your company can do to hit those pillars and help you succeed for us.
We talked about events, and I guess if anybody, and especially if fundraisers are listening, I think the one thing that's been shaken up in the world of development has been, do you do an event or do you not? What's the ROI? Because events are very costly, but and also time consuming for staff, and do they really net out the profit? We're very lucky on our events that we've actually we've scaled back. We're now just doing 2. And they both have a very different purpose. One is more of a philanthropy event, the big event in the spring, but Day One Dallas has a totally different purpose.
We get so much marketing exposure.
Well, it's marketing exposure. We get on the news. But also is our way also to help give back to the community that supported us.
That's right.
But that has changed a lot, and I know a lot of other nonprofits are dealing with that, especially after COVID. I still remember, our event was set. I had contracts. I had the Beach Boys signed on, and it was going to be April 2020. Well, then March 2020
That's right,
happened.
and the world changed.
And the whole world changed immediately. That event had to be, and we went back and forth with the board, because this was actually so early in the process. What are we going to do? And we decided to cancel that event.
That's right.
And then the next year, we still had COVID. We thought this would be a blip on the spring, and we still had COVID in 2021. But the good news is we were able to get an outside venue and bring the Beach Boys back, and it was perfect. But after that, we really had to look at how we're doing events. And so one of the ways we've settled on that we're doing two, we have another event that we will do, but it's not to go out and get sponsors. We do it as a stewardship event just to thank our donors, and we'll do that in the fall, and we give out awards at that for people that have supported us. But my saying is like a lot of people do golf outings and those kind of things. I have one thing about golf outings, and I learned this early on. I love golf outings as long as I can go to lunch and pick up the check, but I don't produce them.
That's right.
But what that leads me into is one of what we've moved to is really to lean on other people to do events for us.
That's right.
That raise money for us, but we don't have to have the upfront money. We don't have to have the staff time to do them, but yet we help promote them. So can you talk a little bit about third-party events and how those help us?
I love third-party events, and in fact, I'll share a handful of examples. So this past spring, one of our community heroes, SPI, they put on an event for us at Topgolf, and they actually went and they reserved the space, and then they reached out to their clients, their vendors, and just their network of friends and supporters, and actually put on a Topgolf fundraiser through sponsorships and just different donations, and they raised over $40,000 for Vogel. And talking to the team that put this on, they said, you know what, it really wasn't that difficult. And the reason it wasn't so difficult, it didn't have just the huge, our Day One DFW event and our Arts Performance event are big, massive events. But these smaller events that are third-party events can be much smaller, much more intimate, but can still raise a considerable amount of money. And if we can get more companies doing these things, that really adds up quickly. And to your point, it takes the stress off of our team. But also, in talking to SBI, they went on and shared about how great this was for them because they get all their people together at one place. It's team building, it's client building, they're having a great time, and they're doing it for a great cause. There's another company called Pinecrest, and they do an actual golf tournament for us each year. And each year they raise over $10,000 to be able to share with Vogel Alcove to support our mission. Over the years, we've had people do volleyball tournaments, cornhole tournaments. We've had people do bowling events for us. And an event that's been a really fun thing in our history is our dodgeball tournament. And we've raised sometimes over $100,000. I say we, Wall Gotchel, which is the law firm that helps to put that on, has done that for many, many years. And of course, COVID has put a little bit of a pause on that. We're working to see if we can bring that back in some shape or form. But each of those third-party events, they all say the same thing. They have so much fun putting it on, and it's their way of giving back to Vogel, just like all the other things that we talked about. And so we actually have a long list of things that we can share with companies in terms of these are activities that you can do, and this is how you can put these on. And maybe the biggest component to how to do that is, well, how do you actually do the fundraising, the transaction? We make it easy there too. On our website, we've got a page within a minute. You can create a fundraiser that people can donate to your event or your cause or your initiative. We even had a woman do a crawfish boil in her backyard and raised over $1,000 for us. She had a laptop computer set up where people came in and made their donation. Another person had a QR code made. And when people came to her little party, they just scanned the QR code on their phone, made their donation, and they got to come in her party. So it's really, really simple and easy, but it's a ton of fun too.
Well, also, it's not just businesses, like you said. Individuals can do it, but kids can get involved in that. So can you talk a little bit about how some of our kids have gotten involved? And especially a lot of people really want their children to learn how important it is to do charitable events.
That's
and
right.
So talk a little bit about how third-party marks can be done with children.
I have to start with my niece and nephew. When they were, I think they were 3 and 5, I may have the years a little bit off, but they did a lemonade stand for Vogel in their neighborhood. And this is probably a little bit on the, wow, I can't believe they raised this much money, but they raised over $2,000 selling lemonade because people would come up and hear what they were doing, and instead of buying that $2 cup of lemonade, they were giving a 20 or they were giving a 50. And so just a fun thing for them to be able to do. We've also had school groups put on concerts. In fact, just recently we had a group that put on a concert for us that their goal is to raise $10,000. And so we're excited to hear the event just finished. We haven't heard the result of what they've done, but I can guarantee you they're going to come close or exceed that. We've had Boy Scout groups, Girl Scout groups do fundraisers for us. A very common thing that people do are their birthday parties. And so we've had kids, instead of asking for presents for their birthday, that they've said, would you make a donation in my name to Vogel? And what I love is after those are done, we reach out to those families and say, you guys are welcome to come down for a tour and visit. So even that child can go through our facility and we can show them, hey, the money that you raised helping us, this is what it's impacting. So again, to your point, we're showing these kids what it means to give back and what it means to think of others. And so I think these third-party fundraisers have a bigger opportunity for families. And you don't need to raise thousands of dollars. Even a couple $100s here and there, again, really helps our mission. And again, we get more and more individuals and families doing this. Those numbers collectively add up to a considerable amount.
And you actually help corporations out a bit to come up with some of these ideas. So you do an email, a corporate blast email that goes out to our corporate partners every month, and you give them ideas based on the month. Can you give us some examples from the last one you sent out?
Yeah,
so some things?
I'll start with May. So in May, you know, a very popular day is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And so it's encouraging people, take that to your advantage. So do a team building event inside your office. And you know, maybe it has a Star Wars theme. Maybe it's, hey, we're gonna have a contest. We're gonna do a Star Wars trivia. And we need people to come and sign up to be a part of this. It's a $20 entry fee, which is donated to Vogel. And the winner of this gets this ginormous Lego Millennium Falcon or whatever it might be. So I encourage companies to come up with fun ways to engage their staff. And really every single month has these crazy, unique holidays. For instance, in July, or actually in June, there was National Donut Day. Well, there's a million things you can come up with to have fun with donuts and come up with a way to be able to raise money with it. And you know, as we get into spring and summer, the Olympics are coming up.
Right.
And so let's do some office Olympics and come up with entry fees and just different types of things you can do. So it's team building, but it's also team building for a cause. And I think that's what really puts an extra emphasis on the importance of what it is. So you're helping your office come up with fun things they want to do, and you're giving back to a charity like Vogel.
Terrific. You mentioned social media as a factor, and you know, I really encourage everybody to go on and be part of Vogel's channels, whether it's Facebook, X, or Twitter. Well, Twitter is X, I guess.
Right.
And
Instagram and LinkedIn.
Instagram and LinkedIn, because we're on all of those. We even have a YouTube channel if you really want to see some of our videos that we've done. But the thing I like about the social media is you get an inside glance at what really happens day to day. The children's faces, exactly every single thing that's happening. So I really encourage people to do that. So talk a little bit more about how social media is important to our fundraising effort, our campaign. How we'll use that in the campaign.
You know, if you do the research or you just talk to any donor, what they want to know is their donation, no matter how big or how small, is it making an impact? And there are two ways you can share impact. It's statistics and it's stories. And both have important roles, but we know that stories are what people don't forget. And social media is one of our greatest funnels, opportunities to be able to share those impact stories. So, and it's not just the impact stories, sometimes it's the challenges that we're facing. And you know, we tell this to people all the time, you know, our families are coming from traumatic and really, really difficult places. And there are stories that we could share that literally we have a hard time keeping our emotions in check because they're heartbreaking. But when you can talk about the transformation, and it goes back to hope, and you see how these families step by step are working to rebuild their lives and rebuilding the lives of their family, and especially these children, how can you not want to get involved? And so I think our YouTube channel, I'm really going to harp on that because of the video element. We've got some amazing videos that you can go and watch, and we encourage you to share those with people. Because again, so many people in our Metroplex are unaware of Vogel, but they're also unaware of child poverty and family homelessness in our community. If you really want to help people and shock them out of apathy and really help them understand that, you know what, there is a problem in North Texas, but there's a way to be able to address it. And videos are one of the most powerful tools we have right now. So follow us on YouTube, like you said, follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn and X, but please share those stories. Find the ones that you really like and share them with your network and just encourage people to learn more and get engaged.
So, as we mentioned, these are extremely exciting times at Vogel, and it's something that we're really looking forward to as we're able to serve more and more children in our future. The issue with just dealing with children in trauma, and which many of our previous podcasts have dealt with, is how Vogel actually deals with trauma, and how that has become such a core thing in my life.
That's right.
And is really about, why I do, what I do. And when I go out to ask people for money, it comes from that why place with me. Not that it's a transaction, but it's really inviting people to join me in working with kids in trauma. And, you know my story.
That's right. Yeah.
And for the people that don't know my story, is I actually been in early childhood forever in my career. And when I made the decision about, 14 years ago now, to adopt a son, my husband and I adopted our son from Ethiopia, and talk about trauma. A child that had been literally raised in a rural part of Ethiopia and really given up by his mom because she couldn't feed him. You just can't even imagine the trauma that must have been for him in his life, where his mom brings him to a place and then leaves him and never comes back.
That's right.
And then after that, these people show up from the United States and put him on a big plane and has no clue what even a seatbelt is. And bring him back to the United States. Yeah. And actually, we hit the United States in the biggest blizzard that was ever in Washington, D.C. On Super Bowl weekend. I'll never forget it. And but to watch him and the trauma that he went through in his life, he was 2.5 when we brought him home. We had the resources to give him some special, he had no language when he got back. We moved to Allen. Every kid in Allen was practically reading by the time they were 3. But Noah didn't have any language. And so just to be able to provide him the special resources we could to get him on track, but also just what I saw there was just what difference it makes with the right intervention, where you can have a child with extreme trauma and then end up where he is now. And I remember, and I guess the day that the light switch turned on for me when it came to, Karen, this is what you're meant to do, was when I was actually in Ethiopia and we got to meet his birth mom. And my husband and I stood on one side of the room and she stood on the other side of the room. And she had a candle that was lit in her hand, and we had a candle. And as part of the ceremony that they did with us, that she actually walked across the room, she lit my candle and she blew out her candle. And in that moment, she was transferring her parental rights to me, or her mother is to me and my husband as parents. But I'll never forget that moment. I can see it as vividly today as ever, because it's at that moment I knew what my purpose was going to be, and that my purpose was to help these kids in trauma. And so it's like I tell my staff, it's like every single day that those families here in the United States and those homeless moms walk into our building and they walk up to those classrooms, they're handing us their candle. Right. And I take that very seriously in what I do. So it makes it easy for me to fundraise, because it comes from a place of, this is important work. And I even tell people this is God's work.
That's right.
But to be able to get people to be understanding what we do and then want to be a part of that is really what gets me up in the morning. And it's why fundraising to me is not a burden.
That's
it
right.
really is an opportunity for the Dallas community to get involved. So that's why I am thrilled as the CEO to see that Vogel is now in the place where not only can we be able to provide that candle, if you will, to the 200 kids we currently serve, but to over 500 in the future. And so I am thrilled, and it's what, like I said, gets me up in the morning. So tell me a little bit about what you're excited about our Hope campaign, and also some of the challenges that you think it might bring in terms of it's a big thing, what we're taking on.
I'll start with what initially was my why and how that why has continued to grow. And then, of course, we'll talk about the campaign and the challenges. But, I mentioned when I learned about Vogel, it was kind of one of those life-changing moments of I had no clue this mission was here. And if you hear me say this often, I believe the words children and homeless should not be used together. And but I take it a step further and again, pull back the curtain. And probably the why for me goes to my faith in God. And around that time that I was learning about Vogel, it hadn't been much, I guess it was probably maybe about 6 months after I had a really traumatic moment in my life where I really was just kind of falling apart from a mental health standpoint because I was living my life in all the wrong directions and doing all the things that I shouldn't be doing. And I really had to kind of a come back to faith moment to say, I've got to make some big changes in my life because I'm not proud of the person that I am. And if I continue this course, things are not going to go well for me. And one of the items that I identified was I was living my life solely focused on myself, and I needed to start looking how I can serve others. And it's funny how God works, because shortly after, this opportunity to work with Vogel hits. And so the mission to me sold itself. And when you see these children and the challenges they're going through, it made me reflect on my life. I made every mistake a kid can make growing up, and yet I had two parents that were role model parents that would coach me, correct me, discipline me, love me, and get me to where I needed to be, and then catch me when I fell again. In addition to my parents, I had a community of people. I had friends. I had a network of an extended family. I had every support resource you could ever ask for, yet I look back on my life, I'm like, how did I make it through that? Because I had so many challenges and just trouble. And I look at our kids and I'm like, gosh, they have so little right now in terms of some of those fundamental things, just a network of people to be able to support them, or just a place to be able to call their home. I mean, we could go on and on and on about the importance of security and safety and just knowing what that is. So that was a huge, huge, huge driver for me. And then recently I got married. And when I got married, I became the stepfather of an amazing little boy who was 4 at the time when I met him. He's 7 now. And that's been a whole nother transitional journey for me, because as I watch him grow, I think about just the basic needs that we're able to give him, the support, the safety, the comfort, the correction, all these type of things that Vogel is helping our families do. And again, I ask myself, when I look at the children that we're serving today, where would these kids be if there wasn't a Vogel? And where would my little boy, who I look at him as not my stepson, he's my son, where would he be if I was one of those families that didn't have the fortunate upbringing that I had? And what challenges would he be dealing with if he were in a different circumstance? And so for me, it's a powerful why. Again, I'll just go back to say, I just think the words children and homelessness should not be together, especially in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Well, it kind of came full circle for me. A couple of weeks ago, we drove to the DC area because we were taking Noah, who when came to me was the scared little 2.5-year-old boy. He's now 17 and about to be a senior in high school, and Allen High School, and he actually got accepted to the Naval Academy Summer Seminar. But the fun thing was when I mentioned that we got off the plane and it was major storm and blizzard, literally, our car was buried under snow. And so one of our friends in Alexandria had to come in the middle of the blizzard and pick us up. And so the first place Noah went was to their house.
Okay.
And so it was really fun. That's where we stayed when we went back to take Noah to Annapolis. And they actually went with us to take Noah to drop him off at the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
So talk about a thing, a circle.
Full circle.
But the reality is, and that's what is that I know personally, I have seen it with Noah, that you can have a child that has trauma, but if you make the investment and if you do the intervention when they are young, you can take a child that was not going to turn out well with the trauma that they were in, it was not going to go well, to who he has become. and who I'm so proud of EMs
That's
today.
right.
So it's just amazing, and that's the reason we do what we do with the kids, because those kids that are over there right now today, we are investing in them, and the Dallas community is investing in them, and it will make a difference.
That's right.
I say this all the time, but I am committed that the children who are in our care today that are homeless will not be homeless as adults. We will break that cycle, and we will put them on a path where they will be productive
That's right.
and happy citizens. And so that's what our campaign of hope is really all about.
And Karen, you asked me, what do I see our biggest challenges being? And I think anyone listening to this would probably be like, well, gosh, Karen mentioned earlier the operating budget's moving from $8 million to $11 million. So that's a big number. And so, of course, that's the thing that I probably, what keeps me up at night, or, the things that we look at is that's our biggest challenge. But again, I look at it exactly the way you talked about it earlier. We have an opportunity to bring people in to be a part of transformational change and hope.
Exactly.
And the way that I look at it is, again, we live, just like we started this podcast, we live in an amazing community with people that truly want to invest and be a part of something big, and we've got that. And so I don't look at what we're doing with any type of fear. I look at it with excitement and optimism, because again, just to your story, we know what we do impacts lives. We know that. We've got thousands of examples of lives that we've transformed. We have the opportunity to do more. And so that's what gets me so excited.
Well, so thank you, Greg. So today to talk about our campaign and the kickoff of that, and as we really spread hope for these kids that we're with. So as we wrap up today, I'm going to give you the last word. So what do you want the community to need to know about the campaign? And
Karen, I have a very, very easy thing that the community can do, and that is give generously to Vogel. Please consider supporting our mission. You can go online to our website, and you can give online at vogelalcove.org. You can also send a check. We still accept mail. We love that. My information is on the website. Please feel free to reach out to me directly if you have questions or you want to learn more about what your support can do. But again, whether it's just a small amount of money or if it's a major gift, please, please, please consider supporting us. We could definitely use your help.
well, thank you all again for joining us in this podcast. We hope that you will continue to subscribe and to join us in future podcasts to talk about the important work that Vogel Alcove does each and every day, and how you can get engaged and be involved in providing hope for the children that we serve. So thank you again for joining us today, and until next time. We hope that you can come back, and we also hope that you will subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any of the episodes, and also you can rate this podcast and review it as well. So until next time.